Sit back and throw one back with your pinky in the air and a middle finger to the world, and join me, the eclectic gentleman Stephen Watts, as I look back on this day in pro wrestling history. But before we do, put that drink down, like, share, and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get our wrestling nerd on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is March 29th, and we are going to start off as we always do on a positive note. That's right, these are your pro wrestling birthdays. Doot doot doot, 1959, Michael P.S. Hayes. 1979, the fans of early TNA remember Goldilocks. And last but not least, 1991, one of the nicest people you will ever meet in this business, Brittany Blake. Of course, on the flip side of that coin, your pro wrestling deaths for March 29th. 1974, one of the original stretchers of the business, Joe Stecher. 1999, one of the original NWA territorial wrestlers, Herb Welch. And last but not least, 2013, Reed Flair. Alright, enough of the sad stuff. It's time to get to the meat and potatoes. That's right, these are your pro wrestling history highlights for March 29th. Taking that Wayback Machine all the way to 1933, Ray Steele wins his second California heavyweight title in Los Angeles, California, defeating Jim McMillan. Jumping a year to 1934, Abe Kaufman defeats Louis Miller for the California light heavyweight title in San Francisco, California. Fast forwarding 5 years to 1939, Steve Casey wins his second American Wrestling Association World Heavyweight title in Boston, Massachusetts, ending Gus Sonnenberg's second reign. Marching into the 40s, 1945, Frankie Talbot defeats Pierre LaBelle to win the Midwest Wrestling Association World Junior Heavyweight title in Columbus, Ohio, beginning his fifth reign. Making a quick stop into the 50s, 1956, Pat O'Connor defeats Lord Layton for the vacant Toronto NWA British Empire Heavyweight title in Toronto, Ontario. The title was vacated after Whipper Billy Watson won the NWA World Heavyweight title on March 15th. Grooving into the 60s, 1960, Carl and Kurt Von Brunner defeat Tex Riley and Len Rossi for the Mid-American NWA World Tag Team titles in Nashville, Tennessee. 1960, Guy Mitchell defeats Skull Murphy in Columbus, Georgia for the Georgia NWA Southern Heavyweight title, ending Murphy's second reign. 1962, Don Curtis and Joe Scarpa, aka Chief J. Strongbow, defeat Carl and Kurt Von Brunner to win the Florida NWA World Tag Team titles in Jacksonville, Florida, ending the Von Brunners' third reign. Grabbing our polyester jumpsuits and going to the 70s, 1972, Jim Barnett's Mid-South Sports changes its name to Georgia Championship Wrestling. 1973, Ben Justice and Tojo Yamamoto win the Mid-American NWA World Tag Team titles from the Fabulous Kangaroos, Al Costello and Don Kent in Chattanooga, Tennessee. 1976, Serge Dumont defeats Johnny Rougeau in Montreal, Quebec to become the first International Wrestling International Heavyweight Champion. 1977, Mr. Wrestling 2 defeats James Dillon for the NWA Macon Heavyweight title in Macon, Georgia. 1979, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation drops a W from its name and becomes the World Wrestling Federation. Grab your Walkmans, cause we're going to the 80s. 1980, Ray Stevens and Greg Valentine defeat Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood for the NWA World Tag Team titles in Charlotte, North Carolina. Staying in 1980, Austin Idol ends Mr. Wrestling 2's 10th reign as NWA Georgia Heavyweight Champion in Atlanta, Georgia. And one more stop in 1980, Americo Rocca wins his second Mexican National Welterweight title in Mexico City, Mexico, defeating Lizmark. 1982, Bugsy McGraw defeats Jose Lothario to win the NWA Texas Brass Knuckles title in Fort Worth, Texas. 1984, a 10-team tournament was held by Central States Wrestling in Kansas City, Kansas, for the vacant NWA Central States Tag Team titles. The title was vacated in December after Bob Brown, who held it with Buzz Taylor, was injured. Taylor teamed with King Cobra to face Tully Blanchard and Ron Starr for the vacant title on January 5th, but the match ended in a double disqualification, so the tournament was made. In the main event of the tournament, the Grapplers defeated Jerry and Ted Oates to win the vacant NWA Central States Tag Team titles. However, the title was immediately held up because the Grapplers used a loaded boot to win. A rematch between the Grapplers and Jerry and Ted Oates was then scheduled for the following week. 1985, Americo Rocco wins his third Mexican National welterweight title in Mexico City, Mexico, ending El Talisman's second reign. 1987, the WWF held WrestleMania 3 before a reported record crowd of 93,173 fans in the Pontiac Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. Of course, this is the WrestleMania with probably the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage, and of course, the iconic image of Hulk Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant to retain the title. Grab your flannels because we're going to the decade of grunge, the 1990s. 1994, Men on a Mission, Mabel and Mo, defeat the Quebecers, Jacques and Pierre, at a house show in London, England's Royal Albert Hall to win the WWF Tag Team titles. Mabel accidentally fell on top of Pierre, and the referee counted the pin, causing an unplanned title change, ending the Quebecers' second reign. And last but not least, 1998, the WWF hold WrestleMania 14. In the main event, Steve Austin pins WWF champion Shawn Michaels, starting his first championship reign. Those were your pro wrestling history highlights for March 29th. I'm the Eclectic Gentleman, Stephen Watts, and we'll see you tomorrow.